Tuesday, November 26, 2019. And this is the Pro and Con Show with your host, Michael James. That's me. All right. So, purpose of the show, trying to encourage us to be better citizens, be well aware of there's a lot of misinformation out there. And how do you focus on it? Well, one is be at least open to listening to the opposing views, or at least their reasoning behind their opposing views, to see if you haven't missed something, and to share your reasoning, not the shouts, not the bricks, not the bumper stickers, but your reasoning behind your position. Okay, communication. Try to get us all in the same place, at least as far as understanding each other. And that's a real problem these days. Because there are so many so-called information outlets, and then social media, which really has afforded a tremendous opportunity, actually, for the title of the show today, propaganda. Propaganda. We are, folks, we're in real trouble, actually. We are in real trouble. No, back in World War II, when the U.S. wanted to disseminate some propaganda, or the Germans or the Italians or whatever, the Axis powers wanted to distribute some propaganda, they would perhaps make a radio broadcast on a certain frequency. And if you wanted to watch that or listen to that radio broadcast, then you would hear their version of the truth, propaganda. Or a very common thing was they'd print up a bunch of little pamphlets or flyers, and they would fly over some zone, and the bombers, instead of dropping incendiary bombs or high explosives or whatever, they would drop pamphlets and brochures with propaganda inside them. Okay, and that's how you reached people with propaganda in the past. Modern day communications with the internet and the literally infinite number of potential information streams that you can see means that people who would want to try to influence you by telling you untruths or partial truths, or twisting the truth in the way that promotes whatever it is that they're looking for. In other words, propaganda. They are wide open to do that. I remember back when I was a young person, there were 3 major networks on television. And those 3 major networks, in order to get their licensing, they were pretty well regulated by the government. And Congress used to routinely oversee their broadcasts, and there was ethical behavior statutes and fairness and stuff like that, political fairness and stuff like that. And that was all kind of built in to this oversight that was provided by Congress and the government. Well, with so many information streams that are available via the internet now, that's all been totally abandoned. And so people can say whatever they want, which is great from a First Amendment perspective, but horrific from a perspective of if you and I, aren't being real careful about what we're reading and how we're taking in that information, we can be absolute victims of, con artists, basically. And so I read this, I found this article online, and I wanted to kind of go through it. So it's on, if you go to Rolling Stone magazine, the online version, there is an article on there. It says, that uplifting tweet you just shared, a Russian troll sent it. Now, that's obviously not true of lots of uplifting things that are sent around, but it is true. many of them. And it's really important that you understand this. And it's scary. It's frightening, frankly. So it says, here's what Russia's 2020 disinformation operations look like, according to a couple of different experts on social media and propaganda. There's that word. So Darren Linville and Patrick Warren, and it basically says that internet trolls don't troll, not the professionals at least. Professional trolls don't go on social media to antagonize liberals or conservatives or belittle them. They are they are not narrow-minded, drunk, or angry, and they don't lack basic English language skills. And they're certainly not somebody sitting around on weighing 400 pounds, sitting around on a bed. The stereotypical trolls do exist in social media, but amateurs aren't a threat to Western democracy. In other words, these people that get on there and, this guy's a bastard, he's dumb, stupid, whatever, that's not effective. Professional trolls, or these professional propaganda artists, on the other hand, are the tip of a spear of a new digital ideological battleground. To combat the threat they pose, we must first understand them and take them seriously. So, there is, on August 22nd, there was a Twitter user, I am Tyra Jackson, and it got 290,000 likes for a single tweet. So just to put that in perspective, a typical tweet that President Trump sends out gets about 100,000 likes. And the viral tweet by this user seemed innocent enough. It was an uplifting pair of images of former pro football player Warrick Dunn and a description of his inspiring charity work building houses for single mothers, which is all fantastic, right? For an anonymous account that had only existed for only a few months, this I am Tyra Jackson knew her audience well. Warwick's former coach, Tony Dungy, saw the tweet and retweeted it, as did the rapper and producer Chuck D. Hundreds. And thousands of real users viewed Tara's tweet and connected with its message. But for the actual person behind this inspiring message was there for a tool for a very different purpose. The purpose of this account seems to be to spread, is not to spread heartwarming messages, but rather tweet about Warwick Dunn was really a Trojan horse to gain followers in a larger, longer-term plan by a foreign adversary. So in other words, what they're doing here is they ingratiate themselves in different terms. They send out information that they know will cause people to like them. And they do this. So they'll send out tweets and they'll have uplifting, inspirational things, and people see it and they'll retweet it, and they'll do this for a period of time, right? So it's kind of the setup. It's like, the big sting or whatever. So they're sending out, these stories that, and it's basically these agents, sometimes foreign, sometimes not, but they're agents that are trying to destabilize our society. And they send out these, it's, nice information and uplifting stories. And that gets people to retweet and send it back out and follow and all this other stuff. And then once they get a big audience, then they use the same network now that they've formed for promoting messages of division, distrust, and doubt. Okay? And so these two writers have spent 2 years studying online disinformation and building a deep understanding of Russian strategies, tactics, and impact. Um, and it basically says that these professional propaganda experts, they're really good at their jobs. They've studied us and they understand how to harness our biases for their own purpose. They know what things will cause us to become emotional, okay? And they push those buttons. And they push the positive buttons to build a network, to get, kind of a large audience. And then they use pretty subtle digs to kind of flip us. And so there isn't like overt hate or racism or whatever. It's a subtle thing that they send out there to now their hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. And it's more of a subtle thing. So, and it's really important that you understand that these different disinformation operations aren't like totally fake news. They're very selective. Like many of the information streams I talk to you about, they're selective in what they say or selective in how they say it. So let's see here. I want to just follow. They had a great here we go. So here's an example. So they've established this kind of Twitter network, okay, and now they're ready to manipulate our emotions in a subtle way. So in fall of 2018, a Russian account they identified as Polite Melanie. Okay, this was on Twitter. Polite Melanie recrafted an old urban legend, tweeting, "My cousin is studying sociology in the university. Last week, she and her classmates polled over 1,000 conservative Christians. And they asked the question, what would you do if you discovered that your child was a Homo sapiens? And 55% said they would disown them and force them to leave their home." Okay. Now this tweet, which suggests that conservative Christians are not only homophobic, but also ignorant, because Homo sapiens, that's our species, right? As opposed to homosexual, which is, a sexual preference. But it was subtle enough to not feel overtly hateful, but it was also directly aimed at multiple cultural pressure points or stress points. So they're picking at the fact that, some people, have issues with people's different sexual preferences, okay? And some people have issues because, maybe they're atheists or whatever, and this whole thing with religion and, or maybe they're not Christian, maybe they're Muslim or whatever. But all this stuff, you see what they did here? Let me read it again. So this is again, this Twitter account has been sending out nice messages up until now, gaining this audience, and now they send out, "My cousin is studying sociology in university. Last week, she and her classmates polled over 1,000 conservative Christians, and the question was, what do you do if you discovered that your child was a Homo sapiens? 55% said they would disown them and force them to leave their home." See, none of that is true. They just put that out there. So this tweet, which suggested conservative Christians are not only homophobic, but also ignorant, was subtle enough to not feel overtly hateful, but was also aimed directly at multiple cultural stress points, driving a wedge at the point where religion and ideology meet. The tweet was also wildly successful, receiving more than 90,000 retweets and nearly 300,000 likes. You see? And that's why I'm just like, folks, wow. I mean, all of us, okay, all of us, we've got to be aware that this is going on, that there are dedicated misinformation campaigns flowing into our society from various sources that mean to do us harm. Okay? Some of those are internal to the U.S. That's some of this that's causing this polarization thing, because this group of people wants to keep their tribe or cult underneath them, and this group of people wants to keep their tribe or cult underneath them. And so they're using disinformation or propaganda to, make that divide and keep it there, keep us clashing. But it's not just us. The bad thing is that we even have various foreign adversaries that are helping do this. And the whole intent is to rip our society apart. And I for sure don't want to have that happen. So that's why I make these shows, the Pro and Con Show. Folks, please, please, please be better citizens. Be open to at least listening to the opposing views and watch out for this stuff. Wow. Isn't it? I hope most of the people that are watching this really understand exactly what I'm talking about here and what these people that have written this article are talking about. All right, we really have to be on the watch, okay, and on our best behavior. Otherwise, we're really going to be in trouble. Okay, so this is Tuesday, November 26th, and this has been the Pro and Con Show. I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Thanks for watching. Look forward to talking to you again real soon. Feel free to go back and look at my old posts, either here on Facebook or on Ott in 2020 on YouTube, my YouTube channel. Maybe send out some of the links to some of those videos to some of your friends and neighbors, and hopefully to get them talking and thinking about what's going on. And until the next show, bye for now.